I mean, a true death and resurrection? No.
What do you think actually happened? Do you have a theory?
His body was stolen, maybe? I don't know. It's hard to... I can just speculate. I mean, that's all I can say. I mean, I can't account for him being seen afterwards. You know, he came back and was 60 days or something.
40 days, yeah.
40 days. So, I mean, I can't account for their eyewitness, if it was an eyewitness of him after he... I can only speculate. I have no idea.
So there's two main theories I've heard by people who accept the basic sort of historical stuff that like Bart Ehrman, that atheist and agnostic scholars accept. There's two explanations for why was the tomb empty and why did all these people report to see him and why did the Christians have such a strong faith in his resurrection. One is that they stole it and it was a big conspiracy. They stole the body. And it's hard to get around them stealing the body because it would be so easy to crush this new religion by just saying we have the body here and then just be it.
Right.
So someone needs to have taken the body. And who else would take it other than the apostles if you're going to say someone stole it?
Right.
The other one, the other theory is the mass hallucination.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is like the 40-day long mass hallucination, which I think is not very credible.
That's
but
pretty speculative.
I think if you come in with the presupposition that resurrection is impossible, that God doesn't exist, that miracles are impossible, that's the only way to say I can logically reject the resurrection.
Yeah.
Because obviously you're presupposing it's impossible. And that's what Bart Ehrman does, for example. He says, well, historians can't say anything about resurrections because we know they're impossible, which he means as an atheist he thinks they're impossible. But if you took like a middle of the road position, just hypothetically addressing the historical sources and just said, well, you know, instead of, we don't have time to argue for like why we might think God exists or doesn't exist. But if you just took a middle of the road position, what's more logical, right? If it's possible that God exists, it's possible that resurrections happen, what's a more logical option? Like the greatest conspiracy ever by the smartest con men in all of human history and a mass 40-day long hallucination? And that combination itself doesn't make sense.
No.
Because these are evil con men. Apparently they're evil geniuses. On the other hand, they're incredibly stupid because they come up with the idea that this Messiah was crucified, which is like the dumbest thing.
Yeah.
Right. But they're also all like schizophrenics and epileptics and having 40-day long mass hallucinations, and then recording this as if it was a real vision, not saying it was a hallucination, thinking it was real, and then willing to die for this, willing to be killed for it, and so I don't know what was the plan, if it was an evil plan, but what were they planning to get out of this, and why wouldn't they recant when they were put to death?
Mm-hmm.
What's another logical option? Another logical interpretation. Of what happened? Right, for the resurrection. Of the miracles, also like I mentioned Celsus and the Talmud, they seem to think something happened.
Yeah,
so,
and hardly anyone refutes them. So.
Right. We have at least 4 different sources saying that it was, and this is also important, that it was Joseph of Arimathea, who was a member of the council, who was like a member of the Sanhedrin. This is like the Supreme Court of Jerusalem,
yeah.
Of Judea. So if you're going to make up a story, you're not going to say, oh yeah, I'm friends with Chief Justice John Roberts, because that's easy to verify. Right. He's going to be like, I don't know you, you know, you're going to say some name that no one's going to be able to verify. So you're not going to take really famous figures like that and make up a story. So that's going to be something everyone knows, where this tomb, which most people are just buried in normal graves where poor people are buried, but this was a tomb for rich people that Jesus was put in by Joseph of Arimathea.
How did he get the tomb?
How did he have it?
Yeah, how was it given to them to lay Jesus there?
By Joseph, because he sympathized with Jesus.
Okay.
Trapdoor?
For like an animal to get in, or for them to steal it?
For Jesus.
Well,
for them to take
if the
Jesus'
tomb was, or if the rock was rolled,
then there's no more way.
So the Gospels say that there was a Roman guard there,
yeah.
but even if there wasn't, you would need to say that the apostles stole it, because no one else would have had a motive to steal it. And if you say that they stole it, then you need to say this was all conspiracy and that they're evil geniuses. I think, right? They're not hallucinating and mistaken, which is a lot of liberal Christians like I saw a debate with Bishop Shelby Spong. I don't know if you've heard of him.
No.
He's a very, very liberal Christian. He's actually said before that Christians need to move beyond theism.
Really?
Which is,
How can you claim that you're a Christian and yet move beyond?
I don't know.
Like, you practice, you believe in going through the motions, but not actually that God exists.
I'm not sure about this guy. But anyway, so there are people like him who say this is just all kind of like a misunderstanding and they really just had a spiritual experience of Jesus.
A lot of DMT in their system.
I'm gonna get into that right now. So yeah, basically that kind of thing. But if that was the case, if it was an honest misunderstanding, then where's the body? Because to steal the body, that's a deliberate, conscious decision to
But the thing
defraud
is,
people
we
or to
found
trick people. Right?
Never mind the fact that there are multiple accounts and multiple sources that record Jesus' life. There have been archaeological finds to prove that he did exist. So if he was just imagined and the entire experience was a hallucination, then there wouldn't be any evidence of his actually living.
Well, what someone like Spong would say, I think, is that the resurrection was a hallucination, not his whole existence.
Okay.
But they have
Because
trouble
that's
explaining
a
what happened to the body. So
yeah.
it can't be both an honest mistake and a brilliant con, right?
I have to get home soon because I promised my roommate I'd get a comment.
What, Larissa?
Yeah, I had that question. How many people report they saw him after he rose from the dead?
Well,
The disciples.
right, we have the
Because the last. No.
what? So we have at least two women, right? Mary Magdalene,
Mary.
another Mary, and his mother.
Yeah.
Right.
And this is in all four Gospels except for Mark, which we don't have the ending. We don't have the correct ending for Mark. We have, but we do have Mary and another Mary, Mary Magdalene and another Mary in Mark's coming to an empty tomb, and then that's kind of where it ends.
That's where it ends.
And there might have been something else, but it's lost if there was something else, or there might have not been anything else initially. And then we have in 1 Corinthians, Paul saying that he appeared to Peter and James, the brother of the Lord, and then the other 12, and then the 12 together, I guess, because Peter would be one of the 12, and then to like 500 other people.
Yeah, yeah.
And Paul, interestingly, he doesn't mention the women, this is another interesting thing about it. Women weren't allowed to be witnesses in court,
Which
except for
might
like a
be
few
why
rare
He
cases.
didn't mention the woman.
Right, which is why to Paul it was kind of embarrassing that the first witnesses were women, so he didn't even mention this.
You're true, yeah.
But you wouldn't make it up, is why it's important. If you're making
Right,
up
that
a
would be
story,
another
Going back to your
similarity.
previous point, like when things are embarrassing or go against a point you're trying to prove, you're not going to bring something and that'll be a flaw in your argument.
Right.
That's just
As
something
if that's what
actually
proved
happened.
your point.
Yeah.
right. So the first witness is Mary Magdalene. Not only a woman, which is not a good source in
But a
ancient Judaism,
prostitute or
but
a
a former
former
prostitute. Right. So about as bad of a witness as you could get in that culture.
Yes.
At that time, yes.
So you have the apostles, you have the women, and 500 others according to Paul. Who got
With the apostles, wasn't it more of like a spiritual thing, like he kind of appeared to them rather than like in a physical form came to them? I'm kind of confused about that.
So we have in John, we have them specifically questioning that. So Jesus says to come and actually touch him, and then he to test whether he's really there. And then what?
Well, is that the story of doubting Thomas?
Right.
Yeah.
And so then he actually eats a fish in front of them in order to prove that he still has a body and he's still
Actually there.
like eating food is something that like a ghost wouldn't do, right?
Yeah.
I guess kind of.
Right.
There was that 12 apostles who saw that, except for Judas, I guess, but
Yes, I think so. I think that's in the end of John.
Yeah.